From the Studio 13 Studios in Splendora, Texas, Hank's Think Tank is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cams rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Hank's Think Tank. It's the evening and it's the weekend. I got Mark Hoganator on my left.
Howdy, everybody.
The Hoganista. The Hoganizer.
The Hoganometer.
The Hoganometer. I like that one. The Hoganalis. That's a little Spanish.
Hobonics.
Perfect.
You ready for some Hobonics?
Wow.
All right, so we got a full house today.
I know.
Once again, we have Spring Paranormal investigators, and we've got the whole group. Now, this doesn't happen but maybe twice a year. Usually the firings are right after that, but hey, we're doing what we can.
see
But
how
we
it
do
goes,
manage
huh?
to get this group together at least once a year. So Mark's going to do the introductions because he studied
good
everybody's
Lord.
names, and this is his test for Hank's Think Tank.
So the firings may begin right after this show, huh?
Come on with your
Mark's
business.
time to
All right.
shine.
You can do it.
We got Michelle. We got Lynette. We got Amy, the leader of the crew. Chris, Tim, Todd.
Tim Todd 10.
So Dave had some Hobonics right there.
We just call him T.
The irascible Raiden. If you quit talking, I'll introduce you.
Irascible?
All right, Jason, and the debunker, and I forgot his name. So, thank you, everybody. It's been
That's a great start.
Hey guys, good to have y'all in the house. I know y'all been real busy doing a lot. You've had a lot of your own investigations going on.
Yeah.
Plus, you've been doing a big show. So I did want to talk about that a little bit too. But how's everybody feeling? I mean, y'all doing okay? Everybody stayed away from all the illnesses that are going around and stuff like that?
We're very excited to be here.
Well, that's good. Fantastic. Yeah, we've been in the studio now for like a year.
Yeah.
And I figured y'all would be one of the first guests, but we just couldn't get it together. But hey, here you are.
your third or fourth time on the show, though, right?
It's
The fourth.
or fifth.
Probably at least 4.
Fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First time in the brand new big studio.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What in the world have you been up to?
A lot.
I know you've been busy, right?
Yeah. So like he said, we still have all of our regular cases we're doing. Briefly for a while we cut back on that, but now we're kind of back up to full speed again with that. So we have all of that, and then we have the Ghost Hunting Beauty show, which of course the three of us ladies are featured on, and some of our guys have been kind enough to help crew that show and
And it's
help
been
out in
doing
the
well,
background. It's going well, yeah.
huh? Yeah. Has it been picked up or anything, or is it still?
Not picked up yet. Still in talks with
Okay.
some of the bigger networks to do so. And
Cool.
Angela, our producer, of course, is making the rounds, and her and James are trying to get that accomplished. So
Great.
we'll see. But at least for now on YouTube, going well.
Great.
The only thing with it that's tricky, and there's a distinction I like to make every time I get the chance, so indulge me here. But we'll get a lot of calls, and I'll start explaining our services, and the person will be like, "Oh yeah, I know what you do. I see the show." The show is the show, and what we do is what we do, and they're very, very different things.
Yeah, the show's more of a production.
It's for entertainment purposes.
Right, exactly. And we do, public places, famous places, big places, on the show.
Right.
We're not clearing, we're not helping clients, we're just going in there doing the fun
Right.
part.
You're not going to
and
make a
investigating.
show out of your typical client. I mean,
No,
No.
that's all private.
Yeah, what y'all really do is you're spiritual first responders.
There we
How
go.
do you like that, huh? Came up with that in the middle of the night last night when I couldn't sleep.
Nice.
So, yeah, but I mean, I think that kind of explains it, really,
Yeah.
So
Very different thing.
let's talk a little bit about what the classic case is for you guys. So what would you consider to be the classic case? Just a standard deal that you normally take care of, and how you help
So-
people out.
These days, as we've gone on over time, they've kind of gotten more extreme. I think everybody would agree. So these days when I get a call, I'm kind of listening, if it's a Casper situation, we're not sure if we have something or not. We think we might. There's little tappings, and we've seen an object, slightly move or something. Okay, you probably don't need us. And usually I'll refer those cases because there's a lot of teams who be thrilled to investigate that and see if you actually have something. But for what we do, I'm looking for, we're being tormented. We've had multiple teams, multiple priests. We can't fix this. People are being physically injured and pushed down the stairs. And
Wow.
those are the ones where I'm like, okay, let's keep talking. Tell me the rest of this, and let's see where we can go with this.
How often is it you get reports of physical attacks?
Pretty often.
A lot.
Really?
I'd say call volume wise, about 75%
No
of the calls I
kidding.
take are that.
See, that ain't cool. That still bothers me, man.
It's
It
horrible.
really does. I mean, I think if I had to experience that, I'd feel completely differently about life afterward.
Well, to be fair, sometimes it's just they want someone's attention so they can get help. That's the better end of like a physical,
Right.
being touched or something like that.
Yeah, I don't want anything I can't see touching
Touching
me.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
A
that's
lot
it.
of people don't like that, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
probably think the more extreme they are.
Microphone. Turn on that microphone.
They probably think the more extreme they are, the more notice that they'll be. But we look at it like more scared or frightened or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that would be me for sure. So I think y'all are in Spring, so you're what, like 30 miles away?
Well, we're
You'd
actually-
still be
we
able to
used
hear
to
me
be Spring.
screaming, I'm sure.
We're in Montgomery now. We've actually been in Montgomery about two and a half years now.
Yeah.
Really?
It started in spring.
It started in spring. People already knew the name, so we kept the name.
Cool.
Just so there wouldn't be any confusion.
So
But
do you have an
our base
office
is
in
Montgomery.
Montgomery or?
I run it out of the house.
Cool,
So
okay.
no addresses.
Yeah, you don't want people driving by going,
No, we don't need that.
Being entirely fair as well, it would be a bit of an endeavor to change all the shirts at this point, too.
Right.
Right, yeah. That'd be a pretty good cost.
Yeah, I guess so. So, and you're the one who pretty much kind of helps to clear what's going on once something's been identified, correct?
Yeah. I go with Amy a lot of the time, and Raiden helps out, and Michelle has helped out in the past, so it's a bit of a group effort. But yeah, I would say, because I live close to Amy, we're maybe the meat of that, at least recently.
Yeah, Lynette, Raiden, and I are really the three heavy clearers. I would
The
say.
cleanup crew.
Yeah. Todd
Wow.
is obviously new to us, crazy enough to join into this thing, and he's
Sorry,
training
man.
for that because he wants to be a part of that too. He's
Why?
fully crazy,
Yeah.
but
So, how did you get involved, Todd? Microphone.
Tim?
Tim.
Timmy.
Don't, man, it was Todd. I had it.
Well, that's kind of an odd story. That's why I call myself sort of the accidental hire.
Okay.
I was actually a former client.
Really?
Yes. And apparently the second time, because it's really bad in my area, just in concentrating, I walked straight up into Lynette's trance
Oh, wow.
and didn't know it. And it kind of just went from there. So
Wow.
Cool. How long have you been aboard?
since September, November,
yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
yeah,
Yeah.
right around Halloween time.
Yeah.
Lucky him.
A lot to learn, I think, because I know that you make this a pretty scientific process.
We try to.
Yeah, it's not something that you just take lightly, and you have a certain set of rules and things that you live by and work by. And I think that's really cool that you keep it professional, because I can see how it'd be kind of hard to do, with everything that's going on and all the dynamics involved, and so it seems like that'd be tough. So I'm glad y'all do it that way.
It's professional. We definitely, when we're on investigation, there's definitely some cutting up. We have a good time. You have to balance, especially when you're working these type of cases, there has to be levity.
Yeah.
If you don't have that levity, then everybody's too intense and
Yeah,
they'll
you
play
could
off
just
of that.
drown in that.
I
if
mean,
you weren't.
negative things love to play on negative emotions. So if somebody shows up and they're angry and they sense it, they're going to use it. So keeping things light and fun, And sometimes we'll do the reveals and the clients will hear it and they're like, okay, I've got a demon in the bathroom, but y'all are in there laughing about this or that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but you got to understand the balance. It's hard to repeatedly go into that, choose to do that, knowing what you're risking, and yet keep cool. And
Yeah.
if you let the intensity and the fear and all the other stuff get to you, then that can affect how well you do. So keeping it light is essential.
It's
And
pretty much
we
every
love when
weekend.
this one's around because he's a huge help with that.
Yeah, I'm
The
sure.
heart of SPI here.
Yeah, okay. And also, I want to add to that, a lot of times, I think the spirits relate to us, and we get more interaction when they see us on a personal side. There's been one case that I'm sure you can think of specifically that getting no interaction, and then we kind of make some jokes, and then the spirit jokes back with us even. There's been a lot of times that will bring out the spirits, disarm them to some degree, I think, because they're not seeing us as a threat. It's more of we're genuinely there to help.
What's the funniest joke you ever heard a ghost tell?
It's more of a
Redneck.
Bubba was the best.
Yeah,
So we have a former investigator from our team, my niece, and beautiful young girl, but for whatever reason, she had a habit of loudly burping occasionally. And I had gotten on to her about it because I'm like, in these reveals, I got to show this to clients. This
Right.
does not look professional. And so one night, her and Jason were investigating in a room. She knew there was something there. She was gifted. They weren't receiving a whole lot of interaction. And she just let out one of these belches. So he's laughing at her, and he's like, "Oh, you're going to get in trouble. Amy's going to review that and call you out on it, And she's like, "Nothing's happening." And he starts laughing, and he's like, "Okay, well, we'll just call you Bubba," because she sounded like, this big loud guy. So they didn't hear it. But later, when I did the review, I hear laughing that's not them. And I hear, "Ha, ha, ha, Bubba." And the spirit repeated it. After that, they started getting interaction. So, of course, I fussed at both of them because I'm like, great, now I got to play this because we have an EVP here.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, but yeah,
That's cool.
classic moment.
Yeah.
After the fact, very funny.
Yeah. I got fussed at for eliciting interaction that you otherwise would not have gotten. Thanks.
Well, yeah,
Hey, somebody's got to be the boss. That's the way it
it's
is.
lonely at the top.
Kind of bringing it back to the levity thing, though, and I know you spoke to it earlier of kind of, trying to really convey the message that it is a darker, more serious situation at times. I feel like there's also a flip side to that coin as well, where a family might be so scared, so terrified in their current predicament that our levity almost kind of helps to ease them. So there's kind of a double-edged sword. Not only does it help us just get through it and with the caseload and constantly seeing it and dealing with it, but it helps them in the exact same way.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. So that's pretty good. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. So, do y'all have like a point person that you send in? So, like, if something's really bad, you're like, all right, Michelle, I know you can see it. So, you go first. Is that how that,
That would
works?
be this
or-
one.
Really?
Yeah.
Why Raiden?
You want to answer that?
To quote Will Smith, because I'm the slickest they is. No.
Okay, that concludes.
No. For whatever reason, the darker stuff usually tends to not have as much of an effect on me. I can take more of, maybe it's my youth, whatever it might be, but I can take more of it without getting bogged down or getting overwhelmed by it.
I'm not even sure of that. I think that you're just really well at being able to combat it when it does bear down on you so much. Your ability is unique in its own.
And
Just a
that's
stronger constitution, maybe.
Yeah.
It's not all. I mean, it hasn't always served me well. To that point, there have been 2 occasions now where I've almost died.
Yeah.
Where stuff has laid me out to the point where doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. I was laid out for weeks.
Yep.
There have been a couple times where I've been overwhelmed.
Is
So
that
it's,
like when a spirit would enter your body?
I had an incident where I was on a case and I was made physically ill in the middle of it. I went through a coterie of symptoms that every single day was rotating. One day I was coughing up blood and I couldn't even crawl to the shower. The next day, that completely went away, and I was just incredibly dizzy. The next day after that, I was like the symptoms of a cold. Then after that, it switched to something else. And for weeks on end, this repeated. I had a day where I was I was like dreaming, and I had a really, really high fever, and I dreamt out the entire day before it happened, and then felt like I was losing my mind because I felt like I was doing a Groundhog Day.
Did you guys get to the bottom of what was going on and get rid of it?
Was that like a possession or something?
Not really a possession, more just being affected on purpose. They were around and purposely affecting him.
Yeah, I think it was a spiritual attack.
Man, don't y'all be bringing nothing up in here. I'm telling you right now.
And I mean, he's not the only one. Michelle's been laid out on a case. There was one that laid you out for, what, about a week?
Yeah.
And I remember Jason actually was with us, and he had to carry her out of the building that night because she couldn't walk out of the building.
Really? Okay, come on.
Not to mention the busted lips and the black eyes.
Yeah, and being thrown off my porch and
Good
stuff.
grief.
Yeah, they like to physically attack me. I don't know why, but they do. And that one case, I was laid out. It was like I was being crushed, and
really,
I couldn't get up off the floor. It was just so much weight upon me that.
And that was at a client's place.
Mm-hmm.
Both demonic cases.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Amy going, I can't move, I can't get up. So
something just had you pinned to the floor.
Yeah, completely pinned.
I forgot what they call it. It's something paralysis, but I don't remember what the first word is.
You're thinking of sleep paralysis,
No,
which
not
is different
sleep paralysis, but there's a. Oh, man, I can't remember. It's not consciousness, but it's. Come on, Raiden, you know what it is.
I don't know. I do not.
I'll have to look it up, and I'll write it down somewhere and send it to you by email or something. It's some sort of paralysis I read about.
Going back to Michelle, though, another thing that kind of touting her ability, though, she has, and it's kind of a double-edged sword again, is she has the unique ability, I think, more than anyone else on this team, that she can kind of emotionally feel more what the spirits are going through on a more empath level. So not only does she get the brunt of the actual physical pain, she's feeling their emotional pain at the same time. Oh. So it's really hard on her, but
it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
So what's that like though when it's not a human spirit? I mean, do other non-human spirits have emotion?
They do. I'm not sure if it's the same emotions as they feel it as we would, but they definitely can convey emotions, and it's never good emotions. I can feel their disdain for us. I can feel their anger that we're there, the absolute hatred, because they don't like us. So
so how do you clear something like that, though? I mean, you can't send it off to heaven.
No.
So where does it?
Well, you can. We've actually swayed a few in our history, and we tried to do that.
And to kind of speak to that, because I do want to interject there, not necessarily all Inhumans are all bad. There's a lot of gray area in between that. And some of them, there's something we ran across that we didn't know what to call it because we'd never seen it before. We referred to it as a doober because it was just a little thing. And that was a rather pleasant thing. It was just existing. But then there's the farther end of that spectrum, demonics, stuff like that. And that's really more of the concerning.
Yeah, those are the ones that are projecting.
Yeah.
The other ones, there are other Inhumans that could, care less that we're there, could care less about humans. They're just there.
Don't care.
It's their land, and that's where they are, and where they've been for forever.
Wow.
But those aren't the ones that are conveying these negative, emotions. It's the ones that are projecting those emotions. That,
well, how do you address that, and then know that you've taken care of it, no matter where it goes or what happens?
It's complicated. Lynette is exceptionally gifted in a way that, not that Raiden and Michelle don't have these abilities too, but she's exceptionally gifted with the humans. And even though, everybody's afraid of the demons and all for obvious reason, but there are some human spirits out there that can just be really horrible too,
just
and
as bad.
really strong.
Yeah, just as bad.
And she's empathic with them. She picks up a lot more on the human emotions and those things, and that takes a toll too. There are cases we finish where we'll do clearings and we'll end up clearing like 50 spirits, and she'll be dealing with the spirits, and we'll have another dealing with the cryptids.
You had mentioned on a previous show that they will tend to congregate.
They do
sometimes.
Yeah. So it's
Damn,
often
man.
we.
I mean, it's bad enough having one. It's just
They start making
you know,
friends and
50
inviting them
of them.
over.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez,
They
man.
start throwing a party.
And when we do those, I mean, I can watch these guys during those clears, and I can see the physical toll. It's not without, it's not just, hey, we walk in, we did it, now everything's great. No, that takes a toll. It takes a toll on them physically every time they do it.
Right.
And I think we're really, really at our most happy when we're working a case and we have clients that, as I say, that get it. Because there are some clients that are just, oh my God, you guys are the best thing in the world. You saved my life. And you can tell they just genuinely, they realize what we risked and they're so grateful. And then there are other people that it's like, I'm looking at them going, I'm glad we helped you, but you don't get it, do you? You don't get what they just did for you and what we risked and what we gave up,
And there have been times when the activity actually hasn't even been enough to necessarily convince like the skeptic husband or skeptic wife, and throughout the entire process they're just kind of doing it for their spouse or for the rest of their family. But then like when we're actually doing the clearing and things, we always like to kind of say it's almost like at the end of it, especially if there's something particularly negative, that it almost seems like the entire space lightens up, like the lights just brighten a shade, and you
Feel
will
it in
actually
the air.
they'll most of the time even the skeptics will be like, whoa, something did change.
Feels
And
different in
there is
there.
a completely different feel and a whole different change, and a lot of time that's picked up on by even the most astute skeptic.
Yeah.
We had a clearing we did years ago, and they had it was a human spirit, but he was particularly troubled in this house. And Lynette, I think, was out of town. Michelle actually helped me, and we went and did that one. And the spirit was upstairs. We did the clearing downstairs in the living room. And the spirit the entire time was crying, like wailing. I mean, it was a male, so it was a deeper voice. And you could hear him almost as soon as we started. He was the last one in the house to go. But as soon as it started, the client just, grabbed the furniture and looked over me and did, like, do you hear that? And it was like, be okay. And as soon as we got to him and she cleared him, stop, silence.
So when you do a clearing, though, do you have to, like, find the root cause of why the spirit is there in order to be able to clear it? Or can you just say, hey, look, this ain't cool, you got to go?
No, we don't do that. We work through things with them.
I like to say we play counsel to the dead. Because that, to me, is the truest thing that we do. We counsel the
first
living.
responders.
Yeah,
I
we
like it,
counsel the living, and
Yeah.
help them through it. But when we're there investigating and clients aren't there, we're counseling the dead. 100%. We want to know who they are, why they're there, what it is that's holding them there, and why they haven't gone on. And, that takes a lot of heavy-duty investigation, hours and hours to get down to what is the issue, what is the problem, why don't you want to do this?
Does it
And-
just seem like those spirits in those particular cases just need someone to talk to and let something off
would
their
say,
chest?
yeah.
And
A lot of
A
time,
lot of
yeah.
times, yeah.
I mean, sometimes people will stay behind just because, but the majority of the time is they've got something, they keep themselves here, right?
Yep.
They've got something that's weighing heavily on them, and it just seems to make a huge difference if we sort of understand and talk to them about it. I know that sounds silly, but it's that simple.
Yeah, that goes back to the par for the cases we used to deal with. Now, in the recent past, you've obviously still got human spirits almost anywhere that you've got a demonic or something that heavy and negative. But even those human spirits in those cases, it's they need to be counseled through their issues before they're willing to move on, because we don't want to force them. Of course, we could strong arm if necessary.
We've done it
But
a time or two, but we try not to.
We hate to breach the free will clause that everyone's entitled to.
We ask them, that's one important question we ask them in every session that we do. We ask them, would you be willing to think about accepting our help? And we don't do it then. We give them time because they're people. We give them time to think about what we've offered. And I would say most of the time we can get them all on board and they say yes.
And Lynette and I actually do something that a lot of the others aren't involved in, kind of on the in-between, is we do what I call remote work. Because she is strong enough and gifted enough that she can tap into that even if she's not in that structure with them. So we'll just pick a night. We'll go to her house and I'll put her into meditation and we'll talk to them more. So like if somebody isn't ready entirely, they're leaning that way, but they're not ready between the last investigation and the clearing. Let's help you get over the finish line. Let's talk a little more one-on-one without the cameras and work through the issue.
Do you think any of them are scared to move on?
Oh, yeah.
Really? Wow.
A lot.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's fairly common.
That's weird.
They either are afraid of what they did, of being judged, or maybe perhaps going to the wrong place, or they don't know what's on the other side. I mean, there's various
The devil
reasons.
you know, as they
right.
say.
Yeah.
And we've had other spirits from past cases that she's called upon in clearings to maybe they had a similar circumstance in life, and they were also scared of crossing, and they come forth and tell their story to said spirit, and we've had great success with that as well.
Yeah, spirits that we've crossed, we sometimes will see in meditations, like Raiden said. They'll either come back to help us, or we'll see them for some reason, and they really become like friends or family. So I'm always like, oh, so-and-so is here, and we're like,
We
yay,
have
they're doing
we have
good.
one spirit that we helped years ago, and the case was just absolutely horrible with this particular spirit and what he had done. I mean, it's when people
What he
hear
had done in life or after?
in life.
Okay.
And when people hear it, I mean, it'll make your stomach go. It's that kind of bad.
Wow.
But every now and then, when we're doing a clearing and we're dealing with somebody who, hurt other people or did, horrible criminal things, he will just randomly show up like, kind of in the background, like, I'll help out. And it's like, all right, you go off with him for a minute and let him tell you
It's like
his
he's following
story.
you guys around to different locations.
He's crossed. He's in heaven.
He's in heaven, so
But-
they're not here on the earth plane. That's a completely different
Very different.
experience. But, I mean, they can, I always call it check in on us, but no, they don't follow us. Once you cross, that's a hard barrier. You can get back, I think we agreed, to reach the living.
Momentarily.
But it's not the same as being, I guess we call it earthbound.
A way to kind of put it in perspective, when she's doing a clearing, she's almost, for lack of better terms, she's almost basically sitting in heaven's waiting room.
Yeah, it's
and
like half
kind of
in,
bringing
half out.
everyone in. So they're kind of coming from the opposite side of that, coming back into the waiting room from where they already are. They're not allowed to come back into the
Right.
physical
Right.
space.
Exactly.
Heaven's waiting room has to be a hilarious place.
The green room for him.
When you think about it, everybody's like real nervous. Oh, man. Remember that time in ninth grade?
We do laugh about it now and then. Like we did, Raiden and Lynette and I did a clearing, 2 weeks ago. And there was one guy who was particularly troublesome in our second investigation at that house. I mean, he was one of the bad guys, so to speak. And when we went to do the clearing, we expected him to be part of the problem. We were waiting to deal with him. And as soon as we started clearing people, he just pops up, I want to go. And we're like, you do? Okay. And I mean, we're dealing with the help of, her guardian angel and all. And
So
she's like, my angel's looking at him kind of shady. I mean, it was like, hey, I'm not the judge or the jury. You want to go? You go. What happens to you
Is
after
that
you go is
a
not
feeling
up to me.
you get, or do you hear that, or is it you feel it telepathically? How do you get in those messages?
So when I put her into a meditation, it's almost it's not a hypnosis. It's different than that.
Right. Yeah, I've actually seen it.
You have.
Yeah.
So when we do that, she's like he said, she's kind of half in, half out. Is the way I
It's
like
like one
to
foot
describe
here,
it.
1 foot there. But if I had to pee, for lack of it, and I had to come out of it, it would be very jarring because it's like you're somewhere else, your psyche. But I have full control, so I could bring myself out of it real quick. It's not pleasant, but I just want to reiterate that whoever's in the meditation, Michelle, Raiden, or I, we all have control. So it's not like
It's like going to a movie theater in your head and seeing what's
Exactly.
happening.
It is.
That's
It
the
really
best
is.
way to.
Except it's 3D. Yeah.
The studio has great faith in it.
When they do this though, and especially with her, she's so gifted that sitting here normally, if we had a spirit in the room, there's a very high odds that she would be able to see them like she can see us in some sense.
Do you see anything now? Anybody?
I think we all kind of
she's
try
seen
to.
something in the old studio.
Yeah. I think we all just function on a daily basis. I think we all kind of automatically go on tune out unless we know we're going to a case or something.
You have to, otherwise you're going to be seeing things everywhere.
So I don't look for things unless we're at a case or unless something comes up and it's like, hey, Michelle, hey, Lynette. And some of them are insistent, but usually we reserve that, I think, for cases.
Yeah.
It's almost like you train yourself.
Sometimes it's kind of bad though. Like we'll be on our way to the case, like kind of amping up, trying to get our senses in line, stuff like that. And every member of the team it might be a particularly nasty area, spiritual wise.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to your case, but we'll be sitting there driving, and we'll be like, oh, there's something. There's something. All right, we're in the spiritual ghetto at the moment.
Must be getting close.
Yeah, just looking out the window, going,
It really is a serious thing with that, and I know a lot of pros that deal with the kind of cases that we have. That pretty much everybody at some point takes breaks, or they'll just wind up stepping away from it.
You have to.
They just can't anymore. But it is you could easily go mad. And I'm not saying that lightly. You
a high
could.
emotional cost to this whole thing.
When you're gifted and when you're dealing with these kind of things, it's they will play with your mind. That's what they do. So you have to be very careful, like they said, to block certain things, to decide when you're letting what in, because
every time we do
really
one of these shows, when you're talking, for some reason, I start thinking about, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And it just felt weird. I wonder if something was going on. I don't know why that's there all the time, but it is.
And to piggyback on what y'all were just talking about, I know when Lynette first really started developing her ability and being able to embrace it, it was more work for her to flip that switch off. It took her a lot of training to be able to turn it off and then turn it on. I mean, we'll be going somewhere off the cuff, not on a case or something, and all right, Lynette, turn on your battery. The turn on your radar. Need you to start working now. She doesn't even think to do it. She's got to be told, kind of like going to the bathroom too a lot of times. But it is what it is. We just accept her.
It's a joke.
It's a joke.
And kind of speaking to what Mark was talking about earlier, there's an emotional cost with that, but it's also sometimes we're so invested in these cases, we're so invested in these spirits and helping these people that there are often times when I think every single one of us has had moments where we're so invested that it's almost like we have to have somebody actually tell us, disengage. Because we're so down the rabbit hole that it's like we're not seeing something coming from another angle.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen.
No kidding.
So I want to talk a little bit, you had mentioned at the very beginning that the cases were up and things were a lot worse than they used to be, I guess.
I don't know if it's worse. As we've gotten into the specialty thing and as time has gone on and we're more and more known for that, I think it's just we get more of those calls.
So now you're getting more drastic cases.
Right, because there are less people that handle those kind of cases or work those kind of cases. And I'll get people who will call and they'll say, I called 5 other teams and, I told them that the cross I have on the wall spun around and went the other way. And they said, oh, we can't help you, and hung up the phone.
Yeah, click.
And I'm like, well,
really?
Don't fault them for that. It's good that they're saying they can't help you instead of saying, oh, we can, and they really don't know what they're doing and they make it worse.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's okay.
You probably get a lot of referrals.
I do. And we're on the short list for a couple of churches,
we've also gotten called in where we had 3 teams here and they just ticked off whatever was here really bad. And so now we have to go in and kind of neutralize the situation.
They can make it worse.
Yeah. We're a cleanup crew a lot of times after other teams that have not.
My daughter had a very bad thing going on in her house, so she hired another team and they came out and made it extremely worse, and that's where my wife found them and they fixed it. So they made it worse, way worse though.
We don't antagonize. We go there as we're cautious, right? Because you have to be cautious.
We're cautious, but I'd say we're kind to everyone.
We're very kind. We offer to help anybody who sincerely.
So you have to go into one of these things really open-minded to start out with.
Oh, yeah.
a little bit guarded because you'd be foolish not to,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course.
And there's the human side to that too. I mean, everyone's got their own different religious beliefs, political beliefs, whatever it is, and all of that stuff kind of factors into how we relate and candor to them. So we kind of have to relate what's happening in their home and whatever structure it might be to them as well, and make it palatable for them to understand, and kind of put them at ease as well. So it's not only are we playing counsel to the dead, we're also doing it to the living.
And,
Yeah,
and it's
that makes
hard
sense.
because, we'll get some of these spirits that are, like a child molester or a serial killer or something that's dead, and they'll hear in these reveals me talking to them. And I'm being kind with them, and God will forgive you, and these and they're looking at me going, "This guy's terrorizing my family. How can you do this?"
Now's your
Right.
chance to
But-
tell him off. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, and I accepted this a long time ago, and sometimes it's easier than others. If they're more remorseful, it's easier for me. When they're less remorseful, it's a lot harder. But if I don't help the problem child, I'm not effective at helping the whole situation. The worst cog in the wheel is the one that we need to fix the most. So therefore, they need the most of my attention and my kindness. If I can't give that, and I wind up ticking that spirit off, well, I'm not listening to you guys. I'm not taking your help. I'm not. Now the problem's bigger. But if I can work with him and get him to see things our way and want the help and want to go on,
And move on. Yeah.
we've taken out a big part of the problem. And then the dominoes kind of, as they, even in investigations, sometimes we'll go into a house and we're like, oh, there's a bunch of stuff here, but we're not getting anything right away. But once that first one talks to us and says, oh, we call it finding the mole.
I was gonna say
This
the
guy's in the
mole.
attic and he's doing this and this lady's over here doing
Yeah.
that. And once
There's
we
always
get
the
that
mole.
spirit,
Yeah.
then it's like the whole house opens up and now everybody's standing there going, oh, can I tell him this? Can I tell him that? And I mean, it really does come off that way.
Overwhelming.
Yeah, but it's getting
Yeah.
somebody to trust us and somebody to talk. It's building trust.
Wow.
But yeah, Amy has counseled some of the worst of the worst. We had a serial killer on an early case, a self-proclaimed very proud serial killer, that Amy had to remain very calm. And I don't even, she couldn't be reactive. She's trying to,
Yeah.
you have to
Right.
find a level of empathy, I guess, as best you can, even with the most.
As bad as he was, the child molester was the worst.
He was. Yeah, we came across, this is a different spirit.
But
of-
everybody is somebody's son or daughter.
This is
Exactly.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I have to think
Yeah.
that way and like I said, sometimes it's hard. I mean, with the one she's talking about, the killer, he actually kind of jumped her, and she was channeling him, which is similar to a possession. It's a little different, but like
Yeah, it's a
temporary.
controlled
Yeah,
possession.
they leave. They don't stay. Possession, they would stay. I
She
don't
was
think.
channeling him, talking directly to me. Chris was filming it, and Chris was sitting in front of a metal ladder that was leaning on the wall, and I kept hearing the ladder like doing that. And I realized, okay, they're going to try to push the ladder on him. So I told him, I'm like, I need you to move, and you need to sit here. And so he's like, why? I'm like, just sit where I said, don't, because I'm trying not to lose my
Right.
rapport with him, but I'm also realizing what's going on. So he moves, and then after a minute, I think he heard it or he saw it, and he looked at me like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, I moved you for a reason. But she kept going, as him. She was him. It wasn't her, and got very descriptive on not only the fact that he killed people, but specific things he did and how much he enjoyed it. And that was a very rough conversation because I couldn't get mad. I couldn't react, And when we did the reveal, I actually told the clients on that when I was like, look, if you don't want to listen to all of this, you don't have to listen to this.
What was he
and if
doing
you want
to
me to
the-
stop, you just tell me and I'll stop.
What was he
That was the
causing to
house where
happen
I
with
was laid
the?
out at.
Yes.
Was
yeah.
it?
Yeah,
Well-
that was the house I was laid out
Same
at.
That was a
Yep.
special case.
What was he doing to the client to make himself known?
So there were a lot of bad things in that case. There were a lot of good spirits there too, but there was a demonic entity there, and he was kind of, I guess you would say, being the henchman for the demonic. The demonic would tell him do this or that, and he would do it, and he was very odd. It almost like, I believe he might have been when he was alive, like schizophrenic or something. because he was very flip. One moment he would be talking about the way he killed somebody and how much he enjoyed it and what he was going to do to the clients, and we'd be asking, are you trying to torment them? Well, yeah. And then the next minute I'd say something, he's like, y'all need to be careful in here tonight. Like he was genuinely warning
Helping
us,
you.
not threatening. And it was back and forth the whole time. And it was like, this guy died, and he was obviously, there was a mental problem. This person was not clear and still is not clear. He's going back and forth minute to minute.
And to speak to that as well, in demonic cases, that there's often an effect like that, not only on the spirits but on the living. Those entities have a way of kind of corrupting anything that's around them. So other spirits might be affected by it. The way they think is cloudy, it's murky, it's unclear. Our senses have been thrown off by it before. If we spend, like I said, if we spend too much time around it, it's almost like a corrosive effect of just negativity. So the longer you spend around it, the more it just brings everything down to its level. And we've had numerous spirits where after we've removed the demonic issue, where we've had spirits that were like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like a come to Jesus moment of they're like, oh, what just happened?
I'd also like to add something quickly. I know, okay. We've got, when we are dealing with spirits that are earthbound, and you heard us talking about mental illness. So I think that we agree that once you cross anything physical that ailed your body is gone, that would include any sort of mental illness. So I don't want people watching to think, oh,
From what we've seen. That's just from
our experience that someone killed himself or had schizophrenia. No, they're not suffering on the other side. If you're earthbound, it seems to hang with them. I think we've seen that.
Yeah, because they're earthbound, and I think they feel that's part of their identity.
Mm-hmm.
So they're hanging on to that
exactly.
identity.
Right.
So once they cross, though,
Yeah.
A lot of spirits, there's a self-actualization element to it. There's one who I'm leery to bring up, but it kind of goes into that. Very early on, my actual first case, there's a spirit, I'm not going to name him by name, but he self-actualized himself. He viewed himself as a monster for various reasons, things he did in life, other things. But he viewed himself as a monster, and that's the way we perceived him. She walked in, she kind of saw him almost like a Frankenstein-type creature. And that was just because of the way he perceived himself. He was a human spirit through and through, but because of the way he was perceiving himself, because of it was such a strong belief that he had, that was how he appeared.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about because this question's coming up from a population. So, and I can't really say on average, but are there usually more demonics, or are there usually more human spirits? Or
definitely humans.
Or does it just
no,
Yeah,
humans.
Yeah.
far more humans?
We see more demonics because that's our specialty.
Right.
But
We
in
see
the
far
general,
more than most
But in the
teams.
general population, no, it's more rare. So,
I guess what I'm getting to is, are the demonics a lot like the human spirits? Like, do they stick to a piece of property or something and just tend to stay, or do they float around and
It's different.
it's a bit.
Demonics
do
are
they look for
attracted.
opportunity, or what's the deal?
The way I like to say it is, he just said district managers. The way I like to
Aren't you a district manager?
the way I like to think about it is whether you choose to believe in hell or heaven in traditional terms, whatever faith you may have. Either way, no matter what faith you have, the good and evil are kind of always butting horns, right?
Sure.
It's always a constant balance. Even if you're not believe that good and evil are ever necessarily against each other, there's some form of balance. From what we've seen, demonics traditionally, I like to think of them almost like a military force. They set up installations.
That's a good way to put it.
A lot of times they're in the same network. There might be a weaker one who's got, I don't know, he looks over 3 houses, right? Then there's his regional district manager who's over him, and he's somewhere else, and then it just escalates up the chain. I would say, given our cases, that obviously we see a lot more of them, but I mean, you're talking thousands on thousands of humans per one demonic.
Right.
If you really had to analyze it, it's
even on our cases. I mean, we might. And not saying every case that we get is demonic, has a demonic in it, but even in a case that does have a demonic, you might have 1 or 2 demonics that are present in that case. But then you could potentially have 10, 20, 100 human spirits that are there as well, that they're holding captive, more or less.
And another thing that happens is, with us, and I like to revert back to Ed Warren once said, basically, when you dip a toe or a finger into this, they know who you are. And it's very poignant, it's very true. In our case, because we deal with those kinds of things so much, they definitely know who we are when we show up. They know what we're there to do. And we tend to, because we're all over the place. We go anywhere people need us, obviously, but most of the time we're in Texas just because we're based in Texas and in similar areas. So we have run across the same demon more than once occupying a different house. That's become a thing, and it's again, they know who we are, so
So
hey there, we're back.
So when you clear a demon, they don't go to heaven. So where do they go? They just go to another house. I mean, that sucks.
There's a couple things to that. In a proper, if we clear the house, if we bless the space, and they agree to willingly leave. Then they'll go to basically wherever they want. Obviously, not that house. Most of the time, like I said, they're over more than one area. They have multiple, like we've kind of said before, ghosts tend to cluster up in population density. They have different population nodes that they purvey over.
Wow.
But usually, I refer to it as he's just going to run to another rat hole. They have different areas sequestered so they can bounce. If they get kicked out of this one, they're to this one, and they're not losing as a whole. It's a numbers game for them.
I'd say, at least once every couple of months, I'll run into one in a clearing, and at the end, the last thing said is, I'll go, but you'll see me again. Yeah, I know. But go. But just for now, just go.
In a true exorcism, however, when you actually have the demonic's full name and you're really going into rites of exorcism, stuff like that, that's just Amscray Ixnay back to hell. So there's not a you're going to this house, no, you're straight back down.
Which isn't a permanent sentence either.
No.
They just have to start over.
Yeah. It's waiting for one invitation.
They're going to get punished for messing up, basically.
I'd be afraid I'd piss off the wrong demon.
Yeah, me too. You see, that'd be my luck.
Yeah.
We like to joke that, like, in hell, there's probably a wall with wanted posters, and this group is plastered all over it. They're like, yeah.
And
we're Republicans.
The tricky part earlier, I know she had mentioned that human spirits can be just as difficult. Demonics, I like to refer to as, and I referred to us as counsel earlier. I like to say we're the spiritual defendants, and they're the spiritual prosecutors, in a sense that it's very fine print things to the letter. Anything, you basically throw out a welcome mat and they can come in. So anything as simple as, oh, hey, come talk to us, without an open, if you're not directing it properly, if you're not doing that, same thing with a Ouija board. That's kind of the inherent problem with that.
What do y'all think of Ouija boards?
It's throwing out an open invitation.
Do you want a demon?
Absolutely.
That's what they ought to call it.
They're basically calling
Want a demon.
Calling out anything.
Probably about half the demonic cases, if not more, that we have come from somebody played with one and didn't think they were doing it.
I know a lot of people that will not allow one in their house.
Let it, guys, stop.
They're good. They're good. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about what I'm going to call spiritual insurance. Is there a way that you can prevent all this kind of stuff from happening to start out with? So, like, I'm that guy.
Yeah, you hear about the smoke and
I'll do what I want to do to make sure that demonics and spirits and bad dogs and all that doesn't end up here.
Lessen the odds.
Right.
Yeah.
There. Most of the time, when there's a demonic, there are things that the person has done, a lot of times inadvertently, that help bring that on. It's not usually intentional. Every now and then it's intentional,
Pay attention to this, Mark.
Then they get the bad.
Debunker.
But,
You might want to chill on the hobonics.
The hogobonics.
But there are people that just, and it's rarer, but people who just, they move into a house, something was already there, they had no idea, and they're innocent bystanders.
Or you pick something up at a thrift shop
rarer.
and bring it home that something's attached to.
That happens.
Yeah.
And
there's also
like putting pineapple on a pizza. Man, you're asking for it right there.
There's also an element that I was going to go into before we kind of derailed, where, and it's why we also clear human spirits first, where a spirit can even bring one in.
Yes.
Remember, they have the same free will as all of us. If they put out the welcome mat, you might not even be inherently be doing anything. It might be tied to them, and they're bringing it in.
Right.
So there's that whole element to it as well.
There's a lot of ways that can happen. What I tell people, and you know, our Buddhist, actually our Taoist priest friend that we work with, he says a lot, you know, like attracts like. Positivity attracts positivity, negativity attracts negativity. And it's extremely true. If you're having constant, you know, fighting in your house and everything is negative and everybody's sick and you're this and you're that, that strife, that negative energy is going to draw in other negative energy.
You see that everywhere. With a coworker who's always bitching and complaining, you hang out with this guy for a matter of a few days, and next thing you're down, and you're right, everything sucks. And it's just,
is that how you see him? As just the constant bitching and complaining?
Not today. So basically, just kind of stay positive and don't play with the Ouija board or
Right. Yeah, definitely don't do that.
Yeah, don't tempt fate.
You know, any kind of, I want to say any kind. I'm very careful how I say this because I am a minister and I am Catholic. Not everybody on the team is. I am.
I sense some tension there.
I do have those beliefs, particularly myself. But I try to tell people and I try to be the most open-minded, cool minister you'll ever meet. That's what I tell people.
Okay.
You know, I smoke. I like to have a good time. I'm not judgmental to people. I try very hard not to be, especially in spiritual ways and things like that, because I can help more people if I'm more open-minded, and I don't get that way. However, there are certain occult practices and things that, you know, people will do that, from my viewpoint, from my education, from my trainers, that I'm like, yeah, that's not good. You know, and it's very hard for me not to be judgmental about those things. You know, certain types of witchcraft and, you know, things like that.
Have you had cases where people called and they were like doing Satan worship or something like that? And
oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden they have a problem?
Yes.
I
so those are exactly the kind of cases I'm talking about. When I get that, you know, I kind of do all right, where are we at with that? Where do you feel that you've done anything that has put you in this position? You know, and I'd say it's a 50-50. Half the time they're like, oh my God, I did all this stuff and now I realize what I've done to myself and I felt terrible about it and I'm never going to do this again, but, you know, I really need help. Okay, I'll help you.
Yeah.
The ones that are, well, you know, this sucks, but if you'll just clean this up for me and then I'm just going to go over here and do this, you know, spell on this and create. Why?
Wow.
Why on earth should I bring my team, risk our necks, help you when you're telling me you're going to go recreate the problem?
I think a lot of it too, just like any spiritual practice, there's risk involved with any spiritual practice. But specifically, there are some things, like she said, that are cater towards more darker elements. But I think a lot of where people run into issue is just sheer lack of information. A lot of people, just like if you go to a range with a firearm, right? You don't know what you're doing. You're not exercising proper safety. Somebody could get hurt.
Right.
And I think even there are people who do darker things and they wind up perfectly fine. Now, I'm not saying go out and do whatever. Yeah, go ahead and try.
Yeah.
It's not an open invitation. And a lot of times that's where people run into issues, is they think, oh, this is cool, and they wind up causing a problem for themselves.
Yeah, like Ray said, lack of information, and like Amy said, not being judgmental. It's basically the same concept of telling someone, don't stick that fork in that wall outlet. It's not being judgmental. It's just stating common sense that maybe they haven't looked at in another way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes too, it's not even the person. Like, we had a guy about a year ago, ex-military guy, and he had a bunch of spirits. He was gifted. He was sensitive to them. And we worked the case and we found out everything, some odd and interesting things in that case. But when we got to, when we first took the case, he told me, he said, I had a lot of stuff, and I knew I did. And he said, I called this other team out, some husband and wife team, that were into voodoo.
Oh.
But they didn't really know what they were doing. He didn't know anything about voodoo, so he didn't know that they didn't know what they were doing.
New Orleans Caribbean voodoo?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
the amount of things that they did practices from their own spirituality that juxtaposed what they were trying to do. Like they locked everything in while trying to remove it.
Right.
It's like you're going to lock all the doors and then you're not going to give them anywhere to go, and you're basically smashing them against the wall and pissing them off. You're like, what are you doing?
They made the problem worse, so then he called us, and I'm like, no. Don't mess with things you don't know about.
Yeah.
Stick to what you know about. And if somebody, if you're trying to get help and a practitioner comes up with some odd way that you're not familiar, no. Find someone who is aligned with your values and your thinking so that you're not, just going, oh, I hope these guys know what they're doing, but I have no clue what they're doing.
Wow. By the way, the New Orleans version is the Walmart of voodoo. For sure.
I'm from there. Well, Ray and I are both from there.
Yeah, it's the Walmart of voodoo for sure.
But there actually is a lot of that in Texas. A lot of people don't know that.
In Texas?
Yeah. Because,
the Berkshire Brothers of voodoo.
You do have a lot of people that came from the hurricane and all, like you said with Katrina, but it's not just that. You have a lot of Hispanic population in Texas, so there's a lot of people who practice Santeria. And
what's that?
It's a religion that is kind of looked at as somewhere, ironically, between Catholic and between occult, having to do with saints and things like that. Spanish religion, you never hear about, other ethnicities practicing it. But the issue with it is that Santeria dabbles a little into magic occult type stuff. And a lot of people have combined Santeria now with Palo Mayalto, which is a type of voodoo, and that has become fairly common, especially here in Southeast Texas. And so, there are different churches and all just for that mix.
Wow.
So, you start mixing one religion's beliefs and ideas with another, and then you get these, kind of oddities, and then you get, different sects that go off from there and make their own versions of things. So then you end up with a lot of dabbling and a lot of weird things going on in it.
I think Jackie was trying that voodoo thing about a week ago.
I remember that.
Yeah, she goes, Hank, does your leg hurt? And I was like, no. She goes, what about now? Like, wow, okay.
And you wonder why you're an ex-client. See, this is what I'm talking about.
If you ever just see her with a like a ballpoint pen like poking at a doll, you'll know why.
Does your leg
and
hurt?
if it hurts somewhere when she does it, yeah.
Oh Lord.
So, have you guys ever come across anything that you A, couldn't clear, and B, didn't know what it was, and just said, hey, look, you guys are gonna have to move, or whatever the case may be, just something you couldn't solve?
So yes and no. Early on, when we first started doing clearings, obviously we weren't nearly at the level that we are now.
Yeah.
That took time. When we were very first doing this, we weren't doing clearings. We were just doing what every other ghost hunting team does, and okay, here's what we found and what you have, and we wish you luck with that. And we decided that wasn't enough. We wanted to help more. So when we started doing clearings, we had to kind of learn our way.
Yeah, clearings is the way to go.
It definitely was. I have no regrets, but at first it was a little tricky.
That's like a cleaning company going, "Hey, you got a stain." See ya.
We were learning what to do, and there's so many facets to it. Because it's you have the whole demonic element, and you have the whole cryptid element, and you have the human element, and then you have the clients. And sometimes they need to do certain things, or they need to be involved in that process. So we had to learn not only how to clear all these different types of entities effectively, but how to help the clients prepare and properly engage in that process, which is different from client to client, depending on the situation, too.
Oh, yeah, just people, yeah.
I can admit, it pains me too, but, in the early days, there's a few that I would say, wish I'd handled that better.
Yeah.
And if I knew what I knew now, no problem. But there were just a couple as we were first getting started that, we had outside help with and things like that because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and we just weren't there yet. Having said that, I'd say there are only maybe 2, maybe 3 tops that I feel kind of we could have done a better job on that. We could have been a little more effective than we were.
Most of our lack of
Since
success
then-
rate these days actually comes from clients not letting us succeed.
Yeah, there's that.
We've had certain clients afflicted with demonics where it's they've had the spirits so long that they're kind of either addicted to the negative feeling that they've lived in it so long that it's just kind of become a part of them, or they feel it's a part of their identity, so they don't want to give it up. We've run into that. We've also run into just like you were saying earlier, how you might have a negative coworker. That energy, you can feel that's a real thing. And sometimes a belief in something is so strong that you can end up creating something. Mm-hmm. We had a client who he did have a legitimate issue. Yeah. There were multiple spirits in his home on his property.
And a demonic.
Oh yeah, and a demonic, and we cleared it, and it was 100% clear. There was no more activity. We verified it. They even called us back out. What he was in turn doing, and what we found was that he was so scared and so hyper fixated on the issue that he was creating the issue himself. All of the spirits had been removed, but he was so hyper fixated on this one element of it that his own energy was creating it. And he just refused to believe that it could be gone. He just kept on. He wouldn't let it go.
So you went back out there.
We went
verified it was clear.
Yep.
And he did not.
He continued to have issues, and he had some other issues as well. And then I know after that he called another team because they called me and they said, "Is this guy okay? Because this guy seems mentally thrown off." And it was a very hard. I didn't want to speak ill of somebody, and I didn't feel right to do that. And if he's reaching out to somebody else for help, who knows? Maybe they'll say something that'll get through to him, that I couldn't. So I also hated to not say anything, and have them do that as a fellow pro.
You didn't want to influence the whole
But
thing.
yeah, I didn't feel that was right, so I abstained from saying anything. I'll let them make their own decision as to how they want to proceed with that.
We've also had clients who kind of going back to that creation of their issue. If you've ever been to a place where there's a traumatic event, be it somebody was murdered or something like that, it kind of almost leaves like an imprint, like you can feel it in the space. We had a client who he had a somewhat traumatic childhood, a little bit of abuse, and he had a teddy bear that he grew up with. And there was one particular incident when he was being abused, where he just had so much negative energy coming off, and without meaning to, without even consciously thinking about it, it latched on to this teddy bear, and just because of that negative energy within it, it just kept on growing and growing and pulling in more and more and more, and it was basically creating their entire issue. So during their clearing, we actually had to involve him in that process and kind of have him help us to undo it because he inadvertently created it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's next up for SPI?
This year we had a lot of big things. We had the show, obviously.
Ghost Hunting Beauties?
Yeah,
Ghost
you want to plug
Hunting
the show?
Beauties.
Yes.
Go watch it, please.
So
Aren't we all beautiful?
It's on YouTube, correct? And
It is.
Is that the only place where it's at right now?
Right now, that's the
Okay.
only place. So if that
Yeah.
changes, we'll let y'all know.
So
Obviously,
check
we'll
it out.
post
It's called Ghost Hunting Beauties.
We
And
got
it's,
season 1 is under our belts. We're working on
Okay.
season 2.
Season 1 is out and can be watched. Yeah, we're currently filming for season 2.
Currently filming.
We had
season
our
two.
front page article in the Chronicle for Halloween.
Really?
Proud of that.
Front page. I missed that.
Yeah, Halloween morning it came out. That was an interview that
Well,
they
that's
did
cool.
with me on the team.
I'm going to look through the microfiche and find that.
And then we did. We had a 3-page spread, and you can find it online. But National Paranormal Magazine
how
did
cool.
a featurette on the whole team.
There's a National Paranormal magazine.
Yes, and there's different
Wow.
regions. So we were the southeast region.
Okay.
So if you go looking for that. But yeah, we were featured in there too. So a lot of big things happened this year.
Okay.
Next year, kind of the goals between now and then, we really want to get a YouTube channel of our own started. That's been something that we've wanted to do for a long time. It takes a lot of time, which is the one thing I have like zero of.
Right.
So, I really do want to get it going this year, though, obviously, to continue. Now we have a lot of fans more than ever, which is, very
That's
cool.
great.
We're very grateful
Yeah.
for that. We want to keep them entertained, give them something to look at with just us. So.
Okay.
Well, I know you're booked a long way out.
3 months usually.
Yeah.
Normally 3 months.
So is it every weekend for 3 months? I mean, do you ever take off?
Very rarely.
Really.
Very rarely.
Wow.
Holidays a lot of times. Like this year we're taking off Easter weekend. But, very, very rarely.
Thank God. The last time we worked an Easter weekend, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
It's hard, and I hate putting people off, so I tend not to take breaks, but I have to think about these guys too, and I see them start getting worn down. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
This Easter I actually wasn't going to take off despite everything, and Lynette had to make a trip out of town and kind of
Thanks, Lynette.
tied me up, and I was like, maybe that's a sign. Let's just let this one go and take a forced break. So.
Okay. So how can people get in touch with you guys if they need help?
So the best way, you can go through our Google page if you'd like. You can email us. That's on the Google page and on the Facebook page, which is another good way to get us. Or just give me a call, 281-825-8618.
Okay.
And we'll discuss it.
You can also send a parcel via Messenger Ghost.
Well, again, guys, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's always great to have the whole group together.
Thanks for
So
having
how's
us.
it feel for y'all?
Awesome.
Yeah.
We love being here.
So when y'all are in investigations, or is it usually the whole bunch, or you
No.
break out?
Normally, I'd say there's 4 of us,
Yeah.
usually on the average investigation. If it's something where we need different people's abilities in the group, like maybe I specifically need this person or that person, or it's a really big house, then often there might be 6 of us on those cases.
Okay.
But that's usually about the max. Having all of us at your house or having met all of us is extremely rare.
Yeah.
And Chris, of course, he does our background technical stuff. He downloads all the files for me and all the stuff that people don't see. So he is probably the least, he's like the absent member that they never see.
Right
but he
on,
touches
Chris.
every single case we do.
He's also
It's
a
just
great
people
drummer.
don't know.
He's also a hell of a drummer. He
That's
is.
it.
We'll do a separate show on that.
Yeah, we will. Well, once again, I appreciate you coming on, and it's been fun. So, Ghost Hunting Beauties. Check it out on YouTube. It's worth it. Mark, you got anything else?
No, I think we're good. We're clear in here, right, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, good.
Yeah. So
Safe to go
y'all
home.
feel good about the studio? You don't sense anything besides us here?
We're good.
Okay, cool.
Well, now
throw
nobody
your Ouija
promised you
board
didn't have
away.
anything at home waiting on you, Mark.
Do what?
Nobody promised you didn't have anything at home waiting on you.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Well, there you go, guys. For Mark Hogan, I'm Hank Vatt. This is Hank's Think Tank, and we're gone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hank.